I'm like pretty much the only one that's doing anything with music at all
Oh, interesting.
anymore. I have like siblings that are lawyers and dentists and everything like that. So I'm the one that's pursuing this creative path, doing music.
My name is Adam, and this podcast is about you, your journey in music, and we'll talk about all the new stuff happening with the national parks.
Awesome. Sounds great.
Very, very cool. Well, first off, talk to me about where were you born and raised?
So I was born in Reno, Nevada, and then moved around California a bit. And then I grew up, we moved to Denver, the Denver area when I was like 8. And so I spent the rest of my time there until I moved to Utah for college. And that's where I currently am.
Okay, cool. So you said Nevada to California to Colorado.
Yep, exactly.
right on.
Yeah.
And how'd you get into music?
Um, I've always loved songwriting. I took piano lessons when I was a kid, and then my mom bought me a guitar when I was like 13 from a garage sale, and that's what I really wanted to play was guitar. And so she showed up one day with it, and then from there on, I just started teaching myself and writing songs like crazy. And then when I moved to Utah for college, I just started playing open mics like crazy and meeting people and through that process met the rest of the band and everything.
Awesome. When did you start piano lessons?
Ooh, I was probably like 10 maybe.
Okay, so you're in Colorado at this time?
Yeah, I was in Colorado. Yeah.
Okay. Did you do like recitals and was piano something that your parents kind of pushed you towards?
Yeah, I mean, it was like all of my siblings. It was kind of one thing that we all did was take piano lessons growing up. And so I'm the youngest of 5 kids, and everybody took piano lessons. And so it was just my turn to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anyone else in your family, anyone else pursue music as a career?
No, nobody did. I'm like pretty much the only one that's doing anything with music at all
Oh, interesting.
anymore. I have like siblings that are lawyers and dentists and everything like that. So I'm the one that's pursuing this creative path, doing music.
That's cool. That is cool. So,
Yeah.
you got a guitar from your mom bought it at a garage sale. Was it an acoustic, electric?
It was acoustic. Yeah, I still have it too. But
Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome.
probably like $20 at a garage sale, and it was the coolest thing in the world. I was so stoked to get it.
And you started writing, you said right away.
Yeah, I did. I learned like 2 basic chords and just like wrote a song as soon as I got that guitar, just like diving into it. And I've always like, for me, songwriting's always been like I've needed it. Like I needed that release. And going through high school, typical like high school drama, breakups, like that kind of thing. Like the emo part of me needed to use songwriting as like this cathartic release. And so I wrote some songs, and they're pretty like emo songs because I was back in like 2007, 2008,
Right,
and
right.
yeah, so I was like super like drawn to that. And yeah, that's how it all began pretty much.
Wow. Okay. Were you into creative writing prior to learning guitar? Like, how did you talked about it being released, write songs, but I mean, that's early, young age, right? Like 13.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've always felt like I've needed some sort of like creative release. And when I was young, I used to draw all the time, or like I've always tried to build things and be as like creative as I can with different, I don't know, whatever it is, different mediums. And when I found songwriting, it was like the thing that fit me the best, I think.
Okay. Okay. And did you play, you talked about open mic nights when you're in college, but did you perform out or have a band at all when you're in high school?
A little bit. I had a band with some friends, and we we played for like our neighborhood one time. Like we got all our friends to come listen to us in our friend's front yard, pretty much. And it wasn't like anything serious. We were just having fun with it, and we never did anything like real shows with it at all.
Okay.
I would play like some acoustic things here and there, but yeah, never had like a real band playing real venues with real shows.
Okay.
That
That
was
didn't come
always
until you're in college.
right. Yeah.
So when you go to college, do you go to college for music?
No, so when I went to college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was actually pre-dental for the first year of
Oh,
college,
like a
and
sibling of yours.
yeah, exactly, yeah. And I was like, no, I don't think this is for me. And so then I transitioned to graphic design, and I wasn't fitting like perfectly either. And so I ended up doing advertising with a minor in graphic design. So
Okay.
yeah, so I pretty much studied advertising with graphic design.
I mean, that kind of goes hand in hand a little bit with music, right? I mean, at least graphic
Yeah,
design. Do you create the logos and stuff for their national parks?
I do. Yeah, I do all the merch, the album covers, logos, everything like that. So it's kind of fun to be involved in the full process of it, like seeing it come together visually and with the music and tying it all together.
Sure, sure. Did you have a band prior to national parks in college?
Um, kind of the band we had, it was me and Sydney, and it kind of transitioned into the national parks.
Okay.
But we were just messing around and playing for fun, and then we decided to get serious about it, and that's when we decided to give ourselves a name.
Was there like a moment or something that happened that made you decide like, oh, we should really start doing this seriously?
I think it evolved over time. It was like we our first show ever was at a battle of the bands, and it was a 2 night thing, and we won our night and went to the finals, and it
Wow.
was our first show ever, and we took second place at that battle of the bands. And then from there, just like little things would happen. And I remember playing our first sold out show in Provo, Utah, and like everyone was singing along to our songs, and it was like mind blowing that that was happening. And then from there, get going on tour, and seeing the music grow outside of Utah, and just those little moments that you have that after you get to a certain place, you're like, I can't picture myself doing anything other than this, like
Mhm.
we have to do this kind of thing.
Mhm. So the battle of the bands was just you and Sydney?
No, we had a couple of other friends in that
Oh,
as
okay.
well.
You didn't just play as a
Yeah.
I was thinking you guys just went up there together as a two piece and
No, no, yeah, we
probably up
had
against a bunch of
playing
bands and still
drums.
get second, but still that's impressive.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we had just formed the band like a week before that too, so we were so fresh, had no idea what we were doing at all, and it was pretty exciting.
And did you have like a record or recording? You talked about playing a sold out show with people singing back your lyrics. At what point was that in your career?
Yeah, so that was right after the national parks released our first album. Is when we had that first sold out show, and not knowing what to expect. It's like the first time we ever put out a record like that, and yeah, getting up on stage and going into the first words of the first song and hearing people sing along, and I like backed away from the microphone, got emotional. Like it was definitely
For
an experience.
sure.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
crazy.
Wow. From there, what was that the record, the Mossy Mountain?
No, so
Oh, before that or after?
it was after that, when we formed national parks. That was called Young.
Okay, so your first record with that was and that was built off what, a Kickstarter campaign? Did I read
Yeah,
that?
it was. Yeah,
Wow, how did that so talk to me about that. That's incredible.
yeah. So we dude, it was a crazy time because we knew we wanted to record at this amazing studio in Utah called June Audio, where we still record at.
Mhm.
But recording time, we had no funds at all for it, and so a lot of people at this time were doing Kickstarters for creative projects like this, and so we just decided to put it out there. We had friends that helped us make cool video for the Kickstarter, and luckily the music scene where we're involved in Provo, Utah, is like so supportive. So it's like so communal, and we had a lot of support to help fundraise for that album, and it made it happen.
That's crazy. Did you how do you was it all just via online like marketing or how do you get people excited and able, you know, to contribute to something like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like it's so long ago that I can't even remember, but yeah, I'm pretty sure all we did was we did a video and had like some, you know, the coolest incentives we could think of, and then just push it out there on social media and try to get all our friends, our families, and we had a lot of contributors that, you know, we didn't know, and it was our first album, and it's cool to see it like spread and people get behind something that they don't even know what it's going to be like, you know.
Right. Yeah, that's what's incredible to me is that you didn't have a record out, right? And there people are willing to help fund it.
Yeah, it's wild.
That's pretty cool. That's really special. And what was the success of As We Run? Was that part of that same record? Or was that much later?
So that song came right after that album. Probably like a few months after we released that album is when As We Ran came out. And we were shocked at the initial push that had, and are still so grateful that that song is like our biggest song on Spotify and on streaming everywhere.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, it's like
but
21 million plus
yeah,
play.
it's
That's
crazy, you know. It's like you don't really know what to expect, especially when you're a brand new band,
mhm.
and having a song kind of take off like that was really exciting. Still is, but yeah,
Was
that
there
definitely happened.
something that sparked it? Like, do you know how it kind of began to take off?
You know, I'm not completely sure. I think it's probably a combination of things. One thing we did when we released that song, well, we actually teamed up um, with a documentary series to write that song. And so I
Oh,
wrote it
really?
for, yeah, for this documentary film about this couple that got married in the Tetons. And it was a beautiful story. And so we wrote that song for that. And then when we were going to release it, we were like, for the first couple months, let's donate all of the proceeds to the National Park Conservation Association. And I think that was something people like really liked to get behind, you know, helping out the national parks. And so I think that was a cool thing that we were able to do early on. And then I think we were just lucky with getting on playlists. Like it got on like some running playlists on Spotify, and you know, was able to reach a lot of people because of that.
Oh, wow. And how did you get involved with Love in the Tetons? Is that friends of
Uh,
yours that were doing the documentary or?
no, so we had like we were so new like on everything, and we had a Twitter account, and we had this friend running our Twitter account for us because he was like a marketing major and he knew what he was doing. And I don't know how this happened, but all of a sudden we got this DM from them, from Love and the Tetons, from NPX, and they reached out, and they're wondering if we wanted to get involved and write a song for the movie. And we're like, yeah, we do. I think they found us because our name or something, but
I was gonna say that because
yeah,
the film it takes place in a national park, right?
it does. Yeah, so it's about this couple from different backgrounds that they actually meet in Grand Teton National Park, and then their love story begins, and then they actually get married in the park as well. So it's a really really cool story.
That's awesome. And with the successes of as when you ran, is that something that really like were you able to tour? Like what the success of that song, what did that bring to the band?
Yeah, great question. I feel like it's still bringing a lot. It's a song that is really getting out there still on playlists. And when we do tour a lot, people come up to us and say they found us because of that song on a certain playlist. And it's really cool because you feel like with like one song can kind of change a trajectory of where you're going. And that song, it
Mhm.
really really gave us a lift, especially early on as a band. And we're able to tour, and it opened quite a few doors for us in that way.
Did you have like label interest at this time?
No, not really. That was something we were open to, but also pretty excited to stay independent.
Mhm.
And you know, kind of just build this thing from the ground up and try to pursue it on our own. So
I
yeah.
like that mentality because it's just funny because when you see, or I don't know, that was a few years back when that was what, 2014 when you put that record out.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean nowadays it's like if a label like they have like these feelers out there. I swear it's like if a song starts to do something or it has a million plays, and then that's when the A&Rs and the labels start to go out and be like, hey, you know, what do you
Yeah,
guys got going on? So
for sure.
it's interesting that I mean you guys obviously have a huge streaming numbers on that song, and I maybe it was just because it was earlier on and labels weren't I just because of the numbers, I would imagine like, hey, all these majors are like, what, you know, trying to piggyback
Yeah.
on the success you had already created.
I think so too. I think it was kind of before that wave where, you know, if a song started popping off, then, you know, something happened from it. It was kind of like early on in Spotify days
Yeah.
when that started when it going. I remember when it hit a million streams and it was like so fast and we're like, what is happening? Like a young band like that, you know, just so pumped on what was going on.
Oh yeah, that's a huge milestone. A million plays.
Yeah, for the first time ever, like it was exciting.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's huge. And then, oh, well, now you think about 21 million. I always put the like try to put it into perspective. Like, if you think about 21 million people listening to that song, like that's that's more than like LA and New York, like every person in the city, like combined, you know,
Yeah.
listening to the song. Like, it's just
Wild.
so mind blowing to think of like how many people have heard your song. It's just
Yeah,
crazy to me.
it is. When you put it like that too, it's like, you know, puts it in perspective. It's not just a number on the Spotify screen, you know, it's like,
Right. It's like
yeah,
you're looking, it's like real people listening to the song and then like 21 million people
yeah.
listening to the song.
And like when we tour, we always play that one as like our finale song, you
Sure.
know, and it's just so fun because it's almost like this feeling like people are waiting to hear that song. And then when we start playing it, it's like we're all in that moment together, just like going wild with it. And we play it a bit different than the recording. And
Uh-huh.
since it's been like how long, 6 7 years
Yeah,
now.
it's been out for a
uh,
while.
uh so yeah, so it's fun to play it in a new way, but you know, it's just so much energy and so fun.
For sure, for sure. And the next record you put out was called Until I Live. What would you say the success, like a milestone moment of that album would be? Like what was the next step in your career after seeing success of As We Ran?
Yeah, I think it was just the continued growth, and our sound evolved quite a bit going into Until I Live. I think playing live a lot and touring a lot kind of helped shape the direction we were going on. And Until I Live is much more like energy, kind of a little bit of a pivot away from our folk roots on our first album, Young and As We Ran,
Mm-hmm.
more to like a little bit poppier infused in that folk sound. And it was just so fun to create that record, and then to bring it to live shows, and you know, I felt like we had some momentum going into that album, and being able to tour it after the fact was awesome. We could just see it building and building. And I would say a milestone moment on that album was our song Monsters of the North won the international songwriting competition. And so
Wow.
that was like a huge deal for me, as the writer on it, like just feeling like, wow, like I can't I couldn't believe it, you know, that it would
Mm-hmm.
get that kind of attention. And so yeah,
And that's
just
an award for unsigned artists.
yeah, for unsigned artists. Yeah.
And how did you like submit the song or like, how did that come about?
Yeah, we had a manager at the time that I think heard about the competition and submitted it, and you know, we didn't think anything was going to happen. You submit a million things and you never know. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, super lucky to be picked.
That's incredible. That isn't that's really incredible. Would you say what was the difference on what about recording the record? Did you feel like that was different at all? And you probably had a bit more experience in the studio at that point.
Yeah, for sure. So with our first album, we recorded, since we'd had like a very small budget, we recorded it live. We tracked it all together, and
Really?
yeah, all in different booths, and you know, that was a really, really fun way to record that album. But when we approached the next record and every record since then, we took our time more with it and tracked it out individually and really wanted to make each song as polished and perfect as we could.
Mm-hmm. And the you put Places out. That was the follow up to that record. And
Yeah.
the same, I guess, same question. What would you say like a milestone was from that?
That's a great question. Something that I think stands out to me from that record is a song that's personal to me, called 1953.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote that about my grandparents, and we didn't release that as a single or anything. It was just kind of like, you know, this softer, more intimate song that's on this kind of more produced album. And that song has organically become one of our top songs now. And so I would say a milestone would just be seeing how people have connected to that song, specifically because it's so personal to me.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool.
And it wasn't pushed out as a single.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's kind of like one of those songs that you don't think is going to like pop off, but when it does, it's like, it's cool to see that.
Yeah, especially having people resonate with the song that you know is really special to you, and it wasn't like, oh, this is like a a banger pop hit, let's put it out as a single, and people are just like really listening to the record and kind of finding their own single, so to speak. That's cool.
Oh, yeah, I think that's rad.
That is. And you Wildflower came out in 2020 or before 2020?
Yeah, no, in 2020. So originally we were going to release it in like April, and then I think we pushed it back to June. Is when we released it last year.
And was that record complete prior to the pandemic, or was it a totally new way of recording for you guys, or was it remote? Like, where were you when the pandemic happened?
We had finished it. It was completely wrapped up by October, November of 2019.
Oh,
so
wow, okay.
Ready to go. And you know, we had a lot of big plans in the works, and then that's when everything just shut down. And it was a really, really weird time to be releasing a record. And it's an album that I feel like is like our best work ever. Like, I was so pumped about this album, and I still am. But it was just like, you know, when we released it, we couldn't go on tour. We couldn't do the things we wanted to do. We had like a lot of marketing ideas that had to get shut down. Like, we had billboards in New York that were going to go up, but that couldn't happen because no one was going to New York anymore. We were going to have like movie theater ads, but you know, movie theaters were closed. Like, it was just like the craziest time.
What a bummer. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and we were planning our own music festival to celebrate that, and we had to cancel that. And that actually just happened. We actually pulled it off.
Really?
So,
tell me about the music festival.
So it's called Superbloom, and it's in southern Utah at Zion National Park. Really close.
Oh, cool.
Park. Yeah. And originally it was going to be last year, but we just had it a month ago. So we got some amazing bands, Yoke Lore, Joseph, and some awesome bands from Utah as well. And it was all day festival, and it was amazing.
Wow, I'm sure that was a lot of work putting that together too.
It was, man. At least we had like, you know, almost 2 years to work on it now. So
yeah, kind of plotted out. And did you do like a campfire tour for that record also?
Yeah, we did. So when everything was shut down, we were like, we just released an album. How do we not tour this in some way, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So when things started opening up again to like groups of 50 people being able to gather, we decided to go hit like everywhere we could go. And well, we started in Utah. We did like 20 shows in Utah in people's backyards around a campfire, just completely acoustic for groups of 50 people. And it was so successful that we decided to take it on the road, and we played about 50 shows with the campfire tour. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So I feel like we were the only band in the country touring, but you know, it was a different way for us to do it, and ended up being really special and something that we could really connect intimately with our fans and have a good time doing that.
Yeah, because everyone was on that like live stream thing where I don't know.
Yeah, we
Did
felt
you
the
ever
same.
do any of those or no?
We did like we did some live stream stuff, and you know it gets tiring and kind of boring like after a while because you can't, like, it's awkward. You play a song and you finish, and then you're like,
You're
okay,
like,
now what? Like, is
yeah.
anyone listening? Like, I don't even know if anyone's out there. Like, it's a weird thing.
Y-
So
Yeah, and I'm sure for you guys too, you feed off the audience, and it could. I bet it gets kind of stale, and you're like, okay, this is kind of. And everyone
yeah,
was doing them. It was just like it became this like way oversaturated market. I
for
feel like.
sure. Yeah, totally. I agree. Yeah.
I mean, I understood why bands are doing it, and obviously, live music or live touring and playing live is a big lucrative part, I'm sure,
Yeah.
of the industry, and having that all taken away. But yeah, that's cool that you guys kind of found your own little workaround to be able
Yeah.
to tour and connect with people.
I mean, that was the beautiful part too, is that it was a time when everyone was just kind of coming out of like being quarantined and uncertain of like what was happening,
Mhm.
and missing that human connection. And so when we were able to do that, it was like, you know, such a breath of fresh air for us to be able to, you know, connect like on a one-on-one basis essentially with some our fans and just friends and people out there. It was awesome.
That's cool. And you just released what part one of a mix for the end of the world.
Yep.
That came out what last month, a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah, it came out a month ago. Yep.
A month ago. Okay,
Yeah.
and then there's a part two coming out as well. Like, tell me about this record and when was it put together and how did the two parts get split up? Like, I want to hear about it.
Yeah. So this was a quarantine baby for sure. This was
Okay.
written during the pandemic, and it's very much a group of songs about these times and how it can feel really heavy and really uncertain. But if you take a moment to step back, you can find so much joy in the moments with the people you love, and there's so much good to experience still. So it's a little bit of both of that, kind of me working through all of those feelings and those thoughts. And when we started recording these songs, we didn't have, you know, part two written at all. It was
Mhm.
mostly just like, let's record these songs. And during that process, we all kind of felt like this feels complete right now. These songs feel complete, but it doesn't feel like it tells the whole story. So let's just put them out as they are. And so we put out part one and are currently working on part two now.
Wow. And is it like is it a concept record or they just kind of go together?
Uh, yes and no. It's not so much a concept as it is just like what it is that we're living through right now. You know, it's there's a song called UFO, which is about, like, it was kind of inspired when the Pentagon was releasing UFO footage, and it was like, how much crazier could this get? You know, like,
Right. I feel like nobody was really talking about that either. It's like we
yeah,
finally got proof that there's some sort of life outside of this and no
yeah. And
one's
we're just like, yeah,
discussing
well,
it.
that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so there, I mean, it's just there's early on in the pandemic when we were first locked down, there was an earthquake that happened in Utah, and it was like that doesn't really
really.
happen
I
here.
was gonna
Yeah,
say I'm from California and that's our thing. I never heard about
yeah,
yeah Utah having an earthquake.
yeah, dude. It was super strange, and it truly felt like the world was like ending. You know, it was like, what is happening? And so there's a song called Headlights that touches on that, and it's kind of like, if the world was ending, where would I be? What would I be doing? Who would I want to be with? That's
Mhm.
kind of like the scope of the album, pretty much.
That's cool. And part two is continuing kind of the storyline of part one. Like
Yeah,
what
I
will
think
part two?
yeah, part two. So part one has a lot of songs that are more like acoustic and kind of less produced, I would say.
Mhm. More
More
like
slow
strip
kind of vibe.
back.
Yeah. And then part two, I think, will be a little bit bigger sounding and kind of continues thematically with part one.
Awesome. And were these recorded when people could actually get together a little bit, or did you have to like remotely send files back and forth to each other? Like how are the songs recorded?
Yeah, we were able to get together and record these ones in the studio.
That's
Yeah.
good.
yeah,
And it sounds. So I mean, I would imagine, yeah. So part 2 is it would be the same vibe.
yeah, for sure, yeah. So
That's cool.
it's fun to it was kind of fun. It was almost less pressure because it was not a full packaged album all at once. You know what I'm saying? It was like, let's in the recording process, we kind of didn't overthink it. We just wanted the songs to come out how they were going to come out, and try, I don't know, just like not overthinking that process. And that was a really cool experience. And I think with part 2, we are going to do some different things in the recording process. So it'll be fun to see how they work together, but also how they're both different.
Yeah, I'm excited. And you obviously did the show, what, a couple, the festival you put on, that was recent.
Yeah.
And then are you guys doing a tour or anything coming up to support the record, the newer one?
Yeah, so we were supposed to be on tour right now, but that was postponed due to some COVID stuff. But we were going to be on the road with Matt Carney right now.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Yeah, so we were super stoked about that, but still figuring out what's going to be going on. My wife, who's also the violinist in the band, is pregnant right now, so we're expecting.
Congratulations!
Thank you. Yeah, we're expecting our first kid in March, and so we'll take some time off, you know, and then hit the road next summer for sure.
That's awesome. Is he gonna be your first kid?
Yeah, first one.
Wow, that's so awesome. I have 2 kids of my own, so I
awesome.
can imagine that you're stoked. Yeah, that's really cool. Definitely a change, life-changing moment. Well,
for sure. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot to figure out, but yeah, we're so excited.
That's cool. And so you gonna try to make the Matt Carney tour happen then?
Yeah, so he's going out like earlier than we're able to because of the baby. So we're still trying to figure out the rest of the tour or yeah, everything else. So
yeah, he's a good guy. I had a chance to interview him as well. He's cool.
Dude,
Very
he's
cool
awesome.
guy.
We played a show with him a few years back at one of the colleges here in Utah, and like he came aside and like talked to us for like 30 minutes, and like, you know, out of his way to talk to us, and we're like, man, this is a cool guy. And so yeah, we're super stoked for him and what he's doing.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And I can't wait to hear the next part of this record.
Yeah.
Part 2. And that's coming out what, next year?
Yeah, next year. We don't have any solidified dates or anything like that. Just kind of taking it as it comes.
Sure. Right on. Well, thank you so much for doing this, Brady. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah. I have one more question for you. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
That's a great question. I would say my advice is hard times do come, and it can be really easy to like get discouraged. But I would say, try to find the moments and the magic in it still. Like, remember why you do it and why you love it. And also, like, really pay attention to how other people react to your music. And I feel like when we hear positive things from people, it really reminds us, like, this is why we're doing it. You know, music is such a powerful tool, and it can be used for good in a lot of ways. And yeah, people need that. People need the good, uplifting stuff in their lives. Bringing it backward.